Good.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Let's find a seat. Y'all are gonna have a hard time singing while you're eating that Italian ice. So Miss Marie Clay, as a thank you, brought some Italian ice back there for everybody. So you can sure to grab one, but try to sing and not eat at the same time. It might be a little difficult. Yes.
No, put it in the microwave for 20 seconds and it'll be perfect.
But don't do it right now because we're going to sing. Okay? We're not going to skip Bible study to pour the microwave. Okay. All right. So let's sing this morning. Take my life and let it be. Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for thee. Swift and beautiful for thee. Take my voice and let me sing, always only for my King. Take my lips and let them be filled with messages from Thee. Filled with messages from Thee. Take my will and make it Thine. It shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is Thine own. It shall be Thy royal throne. It shall be Thy royal throne. Julie is playing today. Courtney her parents are here visiting this week, but also today is, she just sent me a text and she wanted me to let y'all know she's on their way up to Newport News to pick up Jeremiah. So she wanted to let y'all know to please continue to keep them in your prayers. Courtney's son, Jeremiah. Thank you, Julie. All right. So whenever Donna's not here, you get me. So it's a big, alrighty, it's not the same, but so I was trying to think of something I could do today, and we've had a lot of rain, and Joe said there's supposed to be a hurricane tomorrow. Is that what you said?
Well, it looks like a hurricane.
Okay.
About
So
70
I decided.
70 knot wind.
Yes, I decided to get some dad jokes about rain. About rain. Okay, this is all about rain. Okay. What do you call a deer that loves being out in the rain?
Reindeer.
Yes.
Stupid.
That's an easy one. That's an easy one. I did that first. What do you call a pile of coins in the rain?
A pile of wet.
Coins.
Oh, that. Go back to the reindeer.
Climate change.
Oh.
Change.
Oh.
They're dad jokes, remember? They're dad jokes.
Yeah.
What do you call a bear in the rain?
Bear.
A bear in the rain. A grizzly bear.
Aww.
Aww. What is the king's favorite weather? Type of weather?
It's 85 and sunny.
There you go.
Joyce with her phone. I'm going to ask Joyce to leave her phone at the door.
I was turning it on do not disturb and she came on.
What is the king's favorite weather? Hail.
Oh.
Oh, we should have known.
You should have known. What happened when it started raining coins?
Not coins again.
It
Coin
started
drops
knocking
and
some
falling
sense
on you.
into the world. It started knocking sense into the world. All right. I was trying to read these for Brittany earlier. She said, I'm not going to get any of them because I'm a blonde. I said, okay. So, what does rain do before marriage? What does rain do before marriage?
Wake you up.
It precipitates. Get it? Precipitates?
No, you have to explain that.
I know. Dates. Date. You date before marriage.
Oh.
Precipitates. Okay. All right, maybe y'all didn't do that. Why is Britain the wettest country?
What country?
The wettest.
Does it rain?
Because royalty has reigned there for centuries. This is my favorite one. Why does a mama kangaroo hate the rain? Because on those days the kids have to play inside. When does it rain money? When does it rain money?
Never.
In your dreams.
When there's a change in the weather. Okay. This should be easy. How did the skeleton know that it was going to rain?
Achy joints. Felt it in his bones.
He felt it in his bones. Yes. Can bees fly when it's raining?
No.
Think about it. Can bees fly when it's raining?
Think
The
about it.
key word is bees. Not without their little yellow jackets. Okay. Why do sailors eat shellfish? Can you say that 5 times fast? When rain is forecast.
Say the first part again, please.
Why do sailors eat shellfish when rain is in the forecast? Because it's the calm before the storm. One more, just for Diana. Why did the woman open her purse in the park? She expected to find some change in the weather. Okay.
Very good, very good.
Thank you, Joe.
Wow, thank you.
All right.
For effort.
So the trivia question for today,
Is it about the weather too?
on this day, a certain president was born. If you know the answer, raise your hand. A president was born on this day. Don't Google it. Who was president was born on this day? You can take, there's 5 million out there. Not 5 million, but you can take a guess.
It's the 8th.
George Washington.
Nope.
Abraham Lincoln.
Nope. Karen?
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Nope. Dana?
Ronald Reagan.
No.
Obama.
Linda? No.
Haywood Ballard.
I'll give you a hint. Okay, no. I'll give you a hint. Born in 1884. Russell?
Calvin Coolidge?
No.
Oh, can't guess that.
Can't guess
Calvin
twice.
Coolidge.
Somebody you haven't guessed yet. Jim?
Jim Garfield.
No. Shirley?
Teddy Roosevelt.
No. Born in 1884.
Adams.
No.
Dad?
Well, we just
Louise?
got named.
James Van Buren.
No.
Oh,
born in 18, go ahead, Russell, nobody else is getting it.
Eisenhower?
No.
Oh.
But you're close. You're close. Brenda? No.
Truman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
Truman.
Eisenhower.
Truman. Harry Truman, the 33rd president.
We guess it could be time, sooner or later. we
All
will.
right, Russell.
How many people guessed first?
25.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah, I got it.
I got it.
Good morning. You know, it's been a while since I've gone through all the different laws in the Old Testament, but I'm pretty sure there's one that says, "Thou shalt not make puns." So if you have your stones ready for next week, I love that stuff. It's great. But speaking of casting disparagement on people, we're in Matthew 7. And this actually works out really well. I had an interaction yesterday with one of my coworkers who is not a Christian, as far as I know. And they live a lifestyle that we don't agree with. But he's one of my favorite coworkers because he's open, he talks. I can be open with my faith around him. There was no issue, it's great. And I had an opportunity yesterday to actually use scripture because both of us, have, when you're doing something monotonous like shoes all day for hours, just standing one spot, you tend to want to have something in your ear, music or an audiobook or something, and I, listen to like crime stuff on YouTube, and he listens to crime stuff, he got me into it. But yesterday, no headphones, we just talked for 3 hours. It was really great, But I got to use scripture in some of this stuff. He talked about interactions, he's a young fellow, he's early 20s. And he would talk about different things that had happened when he was at the register, when he was helping a customer, and I would say, "What do you think you could use this kind of interaction?" He says, "That probably would have been better." And then I quote scripture with it. It was just a really good time of kind of showing a young fellow there's a better way. And there's some stuff that he has learned now that took me years to learn. So it's really great to see that someone that's so young is just maturing in a good way, and then hopefully there's a door there. But it does take time sometimes. We only interact at work. We're not friends, and we definitely don't hang in the same circles. But these verses go right into that. If I need someone, we're in Matthew 7. Can you go from verse 1 through verse 5?
Do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, "Let me take the speck out of your eye," when all the time there is a plank in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. Can I, look, after reading, let me, this is very interesting what the NIV commentary says. Jesus tells us to examine our own motives and conduct instead of judging others. The traits that bother us in others are often the habits we dislike in ourselves. Our untamed bad habits and behavior patterns are the very ones that we most want to change in others. Do you find it easy to magnify others' faults while excusing your own? And basically, it's you judging. It's your own traits.
And what is that? What is judging? What does that mean? Judge. What does that mean? What is judging?
I don't know. What's judging, Connie? Come on.
I think it's saying something that you think about the other person that's not right. That you think it's
That's
not
a good way
right.
to put it.
So you're saying this is not right, it's wrong. You're separating from right and wrong. Making a judgment call between right and wrong, and then you're saying you're wrong.
What you think, you as a person, like you're saying,
You form an opinion about someone.
Forming an opinion, okay.
Our values are over
Or conclusion.
over theirs.
a personal.
Your values are over theirs. Okay, you see what they do, and because you possess a higher moral fiber in your belief, that you have a higher moral fiber than this individual and how they live or choose to do a thing or whatever it be. Okay. In all of this, I'm hearing a choice. And it's typically one way or the other, right or wrong, good or bad. Okay, there's that. The word there.
Did anybody, excuse me, Ron,
Yeah, yeah.
did anybody say putting yourself above others?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like holding
Put
like a
yourself
higher.
above others.
Yeah.
Condemning,
Was it?
condemning.
Okay. The word there for judgment, and it's only used 3 times because there's one word that's actually used for straight condemnation. Okay. But the word there is krino in the Greek, and that originally means to make separation between. Okay? Not necessarily used in a court sense. It later came to be used in the sense of a court in making a separation between the accused and the vindicated. Okay? So the word was just something that you would separate. In the original Greek writings, it was you would judge the grain out. You would separate it out. And then later they said, okay, this is a good word used to go from the verdict and the vindicated and that who is the one who's judged, okay? Why do we make this call? Why do we make this separation, this idea that this person, and again, this is people we're talking, either a group of people or a person. Why do we look at someone or talk to them and then all of a sudden make this judgment? We put them in a specific spot. No, say it.
Human nature.
That's perfect. Human nature. The innate thing inside of us is to make a call. I have a dog. And I take his dog food and I put it down. And he looks at me. And I stand there, there's your food, buddy. And I'll lick his chops and he'll look at me and I'll say, get it. And he'll look at it and he'll look at me. And he'll sniff it and he'll look at me.
Okay.
So I take out the cooking spray, shake it up, give it one whack, and then he stands there and he starts to swallow. Get it, and he will attack that food. That dog, in his nature, not with a human mind, has an innate ability to sense out the difference between the flat dog food and the dog food I either put 2 little shreds of cheese on, or I sprayed with a cooking spray 1 little shot, or that I took in some bread and sprinkled a little bread. He knows the difference between the unaltered, unadulterated, out of the bag, rough, and something that has a little bit of to it. Just
Cookie spray has a flavor.
He's spoiled, like, just about everybody else in this.
When we
family
got him,
has that.
anytime we took out food, he would just everywhere would be soaking wet. Whoever fed him would have fed him real food. So getting him away from that has been kind of difficult. But we realized because he's not underweight, he's like right below where we kind of want him to be. So I said, listen, if you take the cooking spray and you give it a shot and he'll devour the cup or 2, I'm all for this. Or 2 shreds of cheese.
What does cooking spray do to it?
Because it has a smell that has a savory effect. That's why we will use it to kind of give it like an oil. Or, like today, I even took the panko and put a little panko. It has a seasoning.
Okay, that I could understand.
So for him, it's not this bad food.
Use the cookie
It's
spray
got...
to make bread, do
Yeah.
cakes and stuff.
See, it smells like human food. As soon as he gets that scent, he's all over it. He is all over it.
What kind of dog is this?
He's a mixed pitty. So he's about a medium-sized dog. And he just, oh man.
But he won't touch it if you don't do nothing to it.
He will.
What topping is
My
this?
wife somehow can, what's the term for making so, guilt him into eating. Jupiter, if you don't eat your food, Mom, you'd be real sad.
You ever tried giving them peanut butter, Ron?
I could do peanut butter, but I figure if I could do peanut butter and use a spoon, or I could just take cooking spray, just bang it out.
Yeah.
You know what? And that idea came to me when we had tried for weeks to figure out if there's a specific dog food he likes or something, and we couldn't ascertain exactly what the issue was. So I said, you know what? I wonder. He likes human food. Let me give him a flavor, and I just took the cooking spray in 1 shot, and he was all over that food. That's all it takes sometimes.
So he eats all of it then.
Oh, absolutely. He will lick the because even if it's just a little shot, he'll try to get every bit of flavor out. I'm telling you. It's crazy. And yet, that is something that seems, it's hilarious, right? And it's something that's so simple, and yet this animal makes a decision between that what he doesn't like to him, that is, Mommy guilts me into this, I really don't want, especially when Daddy's around, he'll make it taste good. And the thing that I really want. It's the same thing, just one's a little different. One has a different coating than the other, okay?
You're a good dog, Dad.
I love my dog, I'll tell you. And boy, when we have dinner, it's go lay down. Go lay down. Go lay down. And he'll go lay down. It's consistency, you know. You know, they're not as smart as kids. Sometimes I wonder. They're I love them.
People food too when there's dinner time?
Oh, sometimes, like if I don't want to scrap, I eat Pop-Tarts and the little edges, oh, they're all his. They're all his. I throw it on the floor and he'll stare at me, which is this is the training bit. And then you wait and wait. I won't pay attention to him for a little bit. And I'll say, get. And he'll stare at me the whole time, then he'll go get it. So we trained him, I love that, yeah. Using the things he enjoys to train him. But, so,
There's several flavors.
but there's what?
There's several flavors of cookie spray too.
I just have the vegetable,
I'm saying if he gets tired of one, you can switch to
I
another.
wonder if I could use ketchup.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just goes for it. But the idea here, and this is something that that really sparked me. So commentator Jay Thayer, he's a theologian, he says that this word, the proper meaning of the word krino, is to pick out. This is the separation by choosing. Okay, typically refers to make a determination of right or wrong, and especially in the office of a legal standard. And we only judge accurately by intelligently comparison, or comparing and contrasting, based on God's word, and approving what is correct, and rejecting what is intrinsically and inherently wrong. Now, is it wrong to judge?
Depends.
I want to know, is it wrong? Yes or no? Wrong to judge?
Well, it says judge not, so I'm gonna assume it's wrong.
Hey, Joe!
Yo,
Read your verse. Read your verses.
okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're all right. Okay, here we go. 1 Corinthians chapter 5, 12, and 13. What business is it of mine to judge those outside the church? And are you not to judge those inside? God will judge those outside. Expel the wicked man from among you.
Well, that's interesting. So we're supposed to judge. Who are we judging? Louder.
Said not to judge the people outside of the church, so I would assume we judge the people in the church.
Are we not to judge the people in the church? Before that, it talks about the liars and the hypocrites that are inside the church. And in verse 11, it says, don't even have dinner with such a person. That's talking about believers. Not even talking about unbelievers. Why would Paul not say judge unbelievers? Why is he saying don't do that? Why? Why do we not judge the world? Why is that God's place and not ours?
They're a different standard than we were.
There are different standards. You know, people hate that. People hate that idea. Christians hate that idea. Okay? Christians like to say that we're Christians, we have a higher moral fiber, and therefore you have to live to our standard. Who told you that? Who told you as a Christian that you need to tell unbelievers that they need to live like you and believe the same things that you do? Who told you that? Jesus himself says, I will draw all men to me. How are we supposed to do that? Well, Jesus says it himself again. They will know you are my disciples by what?
Your love.
Say it.
Your love.
For what?
For me?
For love for each other.
Oh.
They will know, that's the outside world, will know that you are Jesus' disciples by the love that you show to believers. Loving a fellow believer is not saying, oh boy, that Joe, oh, he's a big hypocrite. He drives a giant car and tells everybody to live within their means. But he's paying huge amounts on this car. That's hypocritical. But you know what? Jesus says, don't judge lest I be judged, and I have a nice car that I have to put payments on, so I'm not going to say anything to him. Is that how we're supposed to live our lives in the Christian church?
Let me, I'm going a little bit further than what I just read. It goes on to say, if any of you has a dispute with another, dare he take it before the ungodly for judgment, instead of before the saints. Do you not know that the saints will judge the world? And if you are to judge the world, are you not competent to judge trivial cases? I just want to throw that in.
Right. Our behavior is supposed to be like that of Christ. When we walk like Christ, we behave like Christ. Did Jesus walk into a place of sinners and start preaching? Did he walk into a sinful place and just start preaching?
No, he showed love to them.
He could have. So where did Jesus go? Did Jesus go into bars?
He went to the
Temple.
sinner's
Did Jesus go into like brothels? What's the difference, Karen? What's the difference between him going to a place that is associated with sin and sinners coming to him? What's the difference?
Choice.
Whose choice?
The sinner's choice.
The sinner's choice. Jesus does what? Does Jesus just seek out everybody that he preaches to and teaches? In a literal sense, does he just go and find them?
He came to save the lost.
Right.
Come to me.
But how does that happen? How did people come to know Jesus?
They sought him and
I heard his teachings.
They heard his teaching, they saw him out there. What else?
Word of others.
Word of others. Now, when we judge, what is the word of others when we look at the world and say, if we put a big sign out here that said, no homosexuals, no LGBTQ, no transgender, no Muslims, and we put that big sign on there, some churches might put no Catholics, right out on a big sign, right? What does that do?
We are.
That's judging. Is that right or wrong? Why is it wrong?
Because God says, judge not, ye shall be judged.
Now,
and we are supposed to save the lost.
if you have a preacher who's sinning, you're not supposed to judge him, right? All of you said it. You don't judge him, right? He ends up, find out that he's homosexual. What do you do? What do you do?
Pray for him.
Hey, Joe, why don't you read that next verse, that verse 14 in 2 Corinthians again. Go ahead and read that.
Wait a minute.
You hit it perfectly. Or 1 Corinthians,
Okay.
it's verse 1 and 6. Yeah.
Huh?
Chapter 6, verse 1. Yeah.
Okay. If any of you has a dispute with another, dare he take it before the ungodly for judgment, instead of before the saints.
Okay. This goes in the idea of people who are sinning and you talking to them. If I know that Joe has an issue with spending a bunch of money and he's a big hypocrite, and I don't have that issue, but yet say someone else does, who would be more equipped to go talk to Joe? Someone who has the same issue he does, or me who doesn't?
Same issue.
Me. I'm going to go to you and say something, right? And I say, Joe, I've dealt with that in the past. Here's how I can help you. Now, if I go to Joe with a mentality of, oh, Joe, he's a big old hypocrite. Hey, Joe, you ought to read your Bible once a day or something. You got to get it in there, man. You're not Jesus. What's a better approach?
That'll drive them away.
I'm a sinner just like you. Or, hey, Joe, get it together. Wait a minute, they're both Christians. Do what Christians ought to do. Say, hey, you're in the wrong here. Yet one approach is Jesus. Jesus comes in the form of a man so that we can identify with all the same things that he did. Every burden that we have, he was burdened by. Every trial that we go through, he went through. And so then we approach him and say, I'm a sinner. You know what he says? I love you. I love you. Take my hand. Take my hand. I'll take your judgment. I'll take it. But if we decide that we want to keep sinning, we want to have this big old log hanging out of our face, and we walk around, if I had a log, literal log, hanging on my face, and I walked around and looked at everybody saying, how you doing? What would I end up doing?
Hurting those around you.
Hurting those around me. Wait a minute. That speck in that log is supposed to be what? What is he referencing when he says speck and log? What are those things? Sin. So if I walk around with a big old log that I haven't even touched, I'm hitting everybody with it. If I go around with a speck, who gets injured? Me. I'm injured. And yet, the one with the big old log, the one in the nice dress and the nice uniform comes in, the nice expensive car, the nice big house, and says to someone, you know, they got big giant credit card debt, and you go to someone and say, hey, you need to start living within your means. Stop going to Starbucks. Wow, that's really, woo. Yeah, that's rough. I don't think so. You ought to take that log and say, I need to put my issues in perspective. I have an issue with finances. And now that I have it in perspective, I go to someone who goes to Starbucks and say, hey brother, can we work on this together? You see the difference in that? Now, you're not condemning. In fact, where it says, and with what judgment you judge, the word there for judgment is literally condemning. With whatever condemning you judge. Whatever measure you measure will be measured to you. If you walk around and all you do is cast aspersion on other people, I'm not even talking about outside the church because it's not your job. And when you judge others outside the church, you literally pull Jesus off the throne in your heart and you put yourself there and say, I'm ruler, I'm bagging the gavel. That's not your call. When you look at people in the church and you say, oh, I'm so much closer to Jesus, you're a Pharisee. You're not the one that says, I have failed you, Jesus, I am so sorry. And you come to his feet and beg to literally touch his filthy trodden feet or the hem of his garment. No, you're the one who says, oh, Jesus, kiss my ring. Oh, I don't want to be that Christian. I want to be the one who is happy to sweep the gutters in heaven. The guy who gets to turn around, wipe his brow, and see that eternal light. And be so full of gratefulness that I get to sweep the angelic dust off the ground. Instead of thinking I've earned the thing. And therefore look at all of my brothers and contemporaries and somehow put them beneath me for whatever reason it be. Joe.
Yeah, I want to read some more about this, Joe. Society has set up legal systems where disagreements can be up to legal systems can be resolved in court. But Paul declares that disagreeing Christians should not have to go to secular court to resolve their differences. As Christians, we have the Holy Spirit and the mind of Christ, so why should we turn to those who lack God's wisdom?
When we cast judgment on the world, okay, if you go like this, I think I told this to Joe. My buddy, when he was talking to me yesterday, he said, when I go up at the cash register, there are people who won't go and be checked out by me. And I said, why? He said, because I'm LGBT. I said, wait, there are people that won't go to your register? He says, yes, they won't. And that hit me like right here. Who do you think those people are associated with? Probably Christians. Who are like, oh no, that's a gay person. Really? Really? We'll pick out certain little gay things or certain sins, whatever it be, whether it be visual. Like I've heard churches say that people who have funny colored hair shouldn't be going into church. Funny colored hair. I sat with a group of women. All of these women were over the age of 50. And we're having a game night, and there's like 5 or 6 ladies, so I'm in the den of wolves here. And so they were doing the cards, and one of the comments came up, someone said, you know, all those kids today with those purple and blue hairs, that's wild. And they start doing their thing. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Yeah, they color their hair. Did you know that so-and-so colored their hair? And they did, oh my gosh, it was blue. And then this person did it so red. And I said, hold up. Now, granted, I'm a preacher at this church at the time, too. So this is even better. Yeah. And I said, wait a minute, every single one of you ladies colors your hair. Oh! No, you can't sacrifice that sacred cow. I said, listen, you're literally judging people who've got a speck. They're in their 20s, and you probably did something in your 20s, like lift your skirt up above your knee. But there's things that they do that are seen as different that the culture actually exemplifies now. And you do a thing that everybody said is okay, but you're saying it's wrong, but because of the way you do it, it's okay. Really? 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 That is the same thing that happened in the church of Corinth in 1 Corinthians that we're in 1 Corinthians 5 about. They said, look at our freedom and our faith. We're so free sexually that a boy, or well, he's a man at the age of 13, 14. He's having relations with his stepmother. Look how free we are. And they're saying that this is so great. And Paul's like, what are you doing? So you want to know the same measure? If you go, man, that blue hair, that's crazy. Everyone who does that is wild. All right, make sure you put the brown highlight here. And I want blonde on the back side. Really?
I can remember when most of the gray-headed women at the beauty shops, their hair was blue too, but it was a different gray blue.
First time I saw someone over the age of 60 with a really wild hair was when I went to Ohio, and there was a lady there named Mrs. Carr. She was a real sweet lady. She didn't like me much. That's because when she would do things for the kids, we were in a legal environment, and I was saying, you can't do that. She didn't like being told you can't. And then later on, when I was told, don't say anything to her, and then she disobeyed something, could have gotten us fired, could have gotten us shut down. She said, why didn't Russell say anything? Because you get upset when Russell tells you what the rules are, and so we stopped telling him that, so now you're in trouble. You can't go in the baby room anymore. Oh, well, congratulations. You know, I'm trying to help, and yeah. But she had purple hair.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Purple hair. I was like, wow, that's different. Whatever, purple hair, you got purple hair. But yet this person would look at some kid with like the red, the blue, the green. Oh, you can't do that. Whatever judgment you judge, you'll be judged. And that's a basic one. That's a basic one. You come to church sometimes. I've known people who had jewelry all over the place, and then when a young kid comes in and maybe their top's too low, or it's a boy with a wife beater, you know, like a white tank, kind of arms exposed and everything. Oh, that's a horrible way of dress. Well, hold on a second. Wait a minute. I could say the same thing about yours, because yours is actually in Scripture. Quit wearing all that stuff that other people can't have. Because then you're looking rich, and then they're poor, and they can't have that stuff. This is about being oneness. And yet you look down on them for the very thing that you yourself are committing a sin of.
Yeah, this is a good time to bring this up. You
Yes,
talked
sir.
about it when we first came in this morning, talking about Paul, okay? To the weak I will become weak to win the weak. I have become all things to all men so that by all possible means I might save someone. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share its blessings. And it says, Paul gives several important principles. Find common ground with those you contact. Avoid a know-it-all attitude. Make others feel accepted. Be sensitive to their needs and concerns. Look for opportunities to tell them about Christ.
That's not even talking about Christians, is it? Who's it talking about, Joe?
Now he's talking about people he's in the world, really.
In the world. When we as Christians hold up signs and we say, you're condemned, you're condemned, you're condemned, what role do we have in actually performing the judgment? The only role that we have in the judgment of the world is like Joe said. They will be judged by how we have lived our lives in Jesus. That's the light. That's what's going to happen. As the 12 disciples are going to be held up and said, they're judging the nations. Not because they're making a judgment call, but it will be, you will live such lives that the example that you have, people who don't believe will be put in that contrast. They'll see this is who a believer is versus this is those who don't. Look at the contrast. You don't want Jesus to look at the church, his church, and see that we're no different from our culture. We may not do the things that they do, but the attitude that they have, we end up having. We're supposed to have the attitude of Christ. Philippians 2. What is the attitude of Christ? So holy is he, so perfect, and full of godliness. that he then takes that, removes that robe of infinite power, and is born of a baby, a human child, a woman, to become human to show us how to live. That's going into the world and saying, hey, I'm here at work just like you are, and I'm not going to complain about the things my boss tells me to do. I'm just going to do it because I know it's the right thing to do. I'm not going to sit here and say, man, I can't stand this boss because they blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do because Jesus told me to, and I can be an example to you through that. I'm not going to say, oh, Jesus tells us that we have to do. He didn't tell them. They haven't been taught that yet. They haven't been baptized. Go therefore into the world and preach the gospel. Then you baptize. And what comes after the baptism into Christ's body? Teach. Teaching never comes before the gospel or baptism into his name. When you tell the world, you have to do these things, you have to do these things, you have to do these things. The have to do things starts here. You must repent and believe and be baptized because of your sin. You cannot judge the world and hold them to a standard of Christ when they don't know who Christ is. And if the only example that they know that Christ is someone who's constantly poking a finger in their chest, they're never going to want to have anything to do with it. Gandhi famously says, your Christ, I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. He looks at the words of Jesus and says, that's so wonderful. He taught how to live. But these Christians, they want to tell everyone else how to live.
You know, you mentioned a mind of Christ in Philippians 2. It says, your attitude should be the same as that of Jesus Christ, who, being in the very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but made himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in the appearance of man, he humbled himself and became obedient, even obedient to death.
Even Jesus obeys his Father. I think we have to remember that. Yes?
Okay, here's my question. It's like, I try, not to judge people because I was taught that God told us to love everybody. That, what they do, God's going to handle that. That's not my place.
Right.
Okay? So what do you do, especially in today's society when you got...
I didn't know that either.
So today's society, you see people and the way they live, okay, and they try to persuade our younger generation to live like that, and we know it's wrong, in God's eyes, so you try, okay, I love these people, but I know that makes God sad, so do you just still continue just to...
Does Jesus ever tell us to change our culture? Does Jesus ever tell you to change the culture? Jesus lived and came specifically at a time where the people that he was going to were being oppressed by a government that was having them killed. And later on would see the Christians who came out of that group of people, those individuals were killed en masse and blamed for a fire in that nation that wiped out a big chunk of the capital. They were oppressed, they were killed, they were persecuted. And yet Jesus says, listen, we're not going to worry about all that. What do you worry about? You worry about me. You do what I say. Culture's going to culture. Pagan's going to pagan. The world's going to world. We're called to Christian. We're called to be Christ. If you know young people, then you teach them. It's like I've said before, you can't worry about stuff that you have no impact on. That's worrying about something that you're grabbing at, that there's oil. It's a waterfall. You're not getting anything out. You're grabbing at nothing. You need to look at what you have influence on. Like they talked about leadership with Nehemiah. What do you have control over? What do you have influence on? And if you want to talk about being Jesus, that right there, your hemisphere that you exist in and the people you see, that's where you influence. I don't care about what's on TV or what the movies are. That doesn't bother me. It doesn't. What bothers me is, what am I doing with the ones whom I can talk to and say, hey, you're not going to this. I've got kids. If I had kids, you're not seeing that. We're not having that in my house. You go over your friend's house. That's your friend's house. Let their parents deal with that. But I'm telling you, if they start to talk this way, you come home. You start to do this thing, you go home. I was 12 years old. I'm over my friend's house, literally right across the street, and my brother's there. And we're playing Super Nintendo. This is like 92, right? They're playing Super Nintendo and they're swearing. They're 13 and 12 and they're swearing, so what do I start to do? I have my go at it too. You, swear, blah, blah. My brother goes, you're not supposed to do that. Mom says we don't do that. Oh, Mom's not here. Blah, blah, swear. Look, I'm cool. What does he do? The right thing. He doesn't judge me. He tells me the rules. Hey, you're not supposed to do that. Then he goes and tells my mom. And we get a phone call. The little Garfield phone rings. My buddy's dad picks it up. Hey, what's up? It's for you. And I go over there. You get your son behind back over this house. And I got it. I think that's probably the last spanking that I ever got. Was at 12 years old. I made a bad choice because I did something I wasn't supposed to. My mom has no influence over those kids, over that house, over those parents. And I'll tell you, that guy, the father, he was something else. Sailor talk, okay? Don't bring that home. Don't make it a part of you. You go over there, and you can be in that, but you don't bring it home. Oh, now it's changed you? You're getting disciplined. That's literally an example of what we are. We are sojourners in this world. You don't let the culture change you. But you can't change that. The only thing you can do and what Jesus told you to do was to you be Him. You love His church and you show the world that light. You can't go stuff the light down their throat or stick it in their eyes. You're going to end up turning them away. You be Jesus and that shows them who He is. And as He says, I will draw all men to myself. That's judgment. Does anyone have anything else on that?
Yeah, we're supposed to be the salt of the earth. And if we do something that's contrary to that, in other words, if somebody sees us doing something that we shouldn't do of the world, so to speak, I'm not going to go into that, then we lose our savor. In other words, we lose our effectiveness, so to speak. So, and before I quit, where did we stop at on Matthew 7?
We're at verse 7. No, verse 6.
6?
Verse 6, yeah.
Yeah.
And I want you to remember that some of the best people that told me I was doing something wrong, besides my mom, okay, were unbelievers. Friends of mine who said, really? Should you really think that way? You're a believer.
Yeah.
And I went, oh. And you know what that made me do? When they said that, I went back to my Bible and said, am I wrong about this? And guess what? I was wrong. I was wrong. I was so thankful for him. And you know what? I taught him. He wasn't an atheist. He just didn't know. He was agnostic. I had another atheist friend did the same thing for. You got to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And if you meet people from your high mountain, Jesus doesn't even do that. Your God, you don't have to meet Him on the mountain. You don't have to climb some steps. You don't have to go all the way up. You don't have to do all the right things, say all the right things, wear the right dress, give the right amount. No. He came off of that mountain because you can't do it. So He did it for you. And that's what we're supposed to show people. That I'm a humble individual who loves Jesus, and I'm a sinner, and I can't fix that.
I have planted, you have watered, but it's God that gives the increase.
That's a hard one to...
Like it's not our job to feed the 5,000. It's our job to bring the fish and the bread.
That's wonderful. That's perfect. I love that.
Say that again, Brenda.
Yeah, say it louder.
It's not our job to feed the 5,000. It's our job to bring the loaves and the bread. The loaves and the fish.
That is perfect.
That comes from the chosen.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that's great. Hey, I appreciate that. The honesty, yeah, that's wonderful. That's a great analogy. Yeah, we want to be good stewards with that light. You know? Anyone anyone have anything else? All right. Is anyone in here, how many people are part of a small group? Raise your hands. There's a couple. I gotta say, I highly encourage you, when I know that we're past this time, we're gonna have it in the fall. Little soapbox thing here. I really highly encourage you to get in those groups, because you're gonna encounter people who are of all different ages. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be an influence. So when you go into a small group, you think that there's a little bit of discussion here, because I ran my mouth and opened it too much. But those groups are really great, because then people share. You get young people who say, hey, I'm handling this. And you might go, oh, hey, brother, I've been through that. Let's work on that together. Hey, I'll show you what I did. I messed up here and I messed up there, but I did this really smart thing. Let me show you the wisdom that I've earned. That's great. That's the church. So if you guys, when the sign-ups come up next time, I really, 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 as far as you can do it, encourage you to sign up for one of those groups. They're really great. And I absolutely love them. I think they're some of the best times people get to open their hearts. You get people crying, you get people praying for each other. It's a really good time to have food and then and share. Yeah. Hey, that's one of the 4 things. The apostles' teaching, prayer, meeting each other, and eating. That's important. We got to. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.